I don't remember exactly when it started, but I remember the weight of it, the feeling that something was always off, like there was a shadow lurking just behind the walls of my family's smile. They say family is supposed to be a place of safety, but for me it was a maze of secrets, each one heavier than the last. I learned early on not to ask too many questions, not to dig too deep, because the answers weren't meant for me. But the thing about secrets is, they don't stay hidden forever. They eat at you, even when you try to pretend they're not there, festering in the silence until one day they break free. And when they do, they shatter everything you thought you knew about the people you loved and the person you thought you were. It wasn't just one secret. It was layers, like peeling back an onion and finding that underneath each layer was something darker, something more twisted. Some things you can't unhear. Some truths you can't unsee. But here's the part no one tells you. The hardest part isn't just discovering the truth. It's learning to live with it. Before we continue, please subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell to stay updated. Your support means the world to us and we truly appreciate it. Thank you. I remember the moment like it was yesterday, the way the room felt too small, the air too thick. There was a noise, a sound I can still hear in my bones, that cut through everything. And then silence. The kind of silence that feels suffocating, like you're drowning but no one's throwing you a lifeline. I should have known something was wrong. I should have seen the signs. But it wasn't until it all came crashing down that I realized what I'd been carrying, what I'd been trying to ignore for so long. What I didn't know then, what no one tells you, is how much one moment can undo everything you thought was real. How it can twist the very fabric of who you are. It's hard to explain what it feels like to look at the people you love and feel like you don't know them at all. To feel like you've been living in a lie, but you didn't know how deep the deception really went. I didn't want to face it, but I had no choice. And once the truth started unraveling, I couldn't stop it, even if I tried. There are some things you can never undo. Some wounds you can't just patch over. They stay with you, haunting every step, every breath. And all I wanted was to understand how I got here. I grew up in a house that looked like it belonged in a picture frame. The kind of family everyone envied: two parents who loved each other, a perfect older brother who could do no wrong, and me, the youngest, always trying to keep up. We had Sunday dinners that felt like a scene from a movie, where laughter echoed through the walls and everything seemed just right. There were no fights, no raised voices. We all knew our roles, and somehow everything worked. I was proud of my family, proud of how normal we seemed. I would tell my friends about the vacations we took, the house we lived in, the way everything was always perfectly in place. But even then, there was this feeling, something in the air, just beneath the surface that I couldn't quite put into words. It wasn't that anything was overtly wrong, not at first. It was the small things, the way my mom would sometimes look away when I asked certain questions, or how my dad's laughter never quite reached his eyes. No one would have ever guessed that behind the smiles, there were cracks. That behind the perfect facade, something wasn't right. But I could feel it, like a weight in the room, something I couldn't name but couldn't ignore either. It was always there, lurking, waiting for the day when it would finally make itself known. It started with a thought that wouldn't leave me alone, a nagging feeling in the back of my mind. I couldn't shake it, no matter how much I tried to ignore it. Something wasn't right, but I couldn't put my finger on what it was. It wasn't until that moment when everything seemed to freeze that I first understood. I was standing in the kitchen, watching my mom laugh a little too loudly at something my brother had said, but there was something in her eyes. Something that wasn't quite right. It was as if she wasn't really there, as if the warmth in her smile wasn't hers to give. I felt my stomach tighten, and for a split second, the room felt too small, too suffocating. I wanted to ask, to say something, but the words stuck in my throat. My mind raced, trying to convince me that I was just imagining things. I wanted to believe that, because if I didn't, then what? What did it mean if something was wrong? What did it mean if the picture-perfect family I had spent my life believing in wasn't real? The truth felt like an intruder creeping in on me, but I wasn't ready to face it. I pushed it away, telling myself it was nothing. But even as I convinced myself that I was overreacting, the feeling didn't disappear. It only grew stronger, more persistent, like a shadow I couldn't outrun. I felt ashamed for even thinking it, terrified of what it meant. If I acknowledged it, if I admitted that something was wrong, would I be betraying my family? Would I be breaking something that could never be fixed again? But no matter how much I tried to bury it, the feeling lingered, gnawing at me from the inside. And the more I denied it, the more I realized I couldn't run from the truth forever. The first turning point came late one night, when I found myself standing in front of the mirror, staring at the person I didn't recognize. It was like I was looking at a stranger, someone who had been carrying a weight I hadn't understood until that very moment. I could feel it then, this overwhelming sense of fear and confusion that had lived inside me for years but had always been pushed away. There was no real clarity yet, no words for what I felt, but I knew that something had been broken deep inside me. Then, one evening, after a seemingly normal conversation with my brother, I heard something in his voice, something I couldn't ignore. He said something about the way things used to be, the way we used to be, and suddenly a flood of memories rushed to the surface. The laughter, the smiles, they felt like lies now. Every little thing that I had once believed to be true turned into a puzzle piece that didn't fit anymore. That was when I first understood that the walls of my world had been built on something fragile and false. I had been so desperate to believe in the illusion of normalcy that I had never questioned what lay beneath it. But now the cracks were impossible to ignore. It was one quiet afternoon when I was alone that I finally admitted to myself what had been gnawing at my insides for so long. I could feel the guilt swallowing me whole, as if it was my fault that things had spiraled the way they had. I had stayed silent for years, buried the truth under layers of denial, and now it was suffocating me. My mind raced with questions. Why hadn't I seen it before? Why hadn't I known? I felt betrayed, not only by the people I had trusted most but also by myself for not speaking up sooner. The guilt and shame weighed on me in a way I couldn't explain, like I was somehow complicit in everything that had happened. I kept wondering if it was my fault, if I had somehow caused the hurt. But the more I tried to understand, the more the realization grew. It wasn't my fault. And yet, accepting that truth felt like stepping into a void, where nothing felt safe anymore. The comfort of denial was gone, and in its place was a brutal clarity, a truth so harsh and so painful that I wasn't sure how to live with it. Each of those moments shattered something in me, a small part of my innocence slipping away, piece by piece. And as much as I wanted to hold on to the remnants of who I had been, I knew there was no turning back. The weight of it all was unbearable, but somehow I had to carry it. And slowly, painfully, I began to understand that healing wasn't just about facing the truth, it was about learning to live with it. After it happened, everything felt like it was spinning, like the world had shifted and I was left in some strange, unfamiliar place. The weight of what I had just experienced pressed down on me, suffocating me with every breath. I wanted to scream, to cry, to somehow release the overwhelming emotions that were flooding me, but the words wouldn't come. I was trapped in my own mind, unable to make sense of what had just shattered everything I had believed to be true. The guilt hit first, sharp and relentless, gnawing at me in the quiet moments when I was left alone with my thoughts. I kept asking myself why I didn't stop it, why I didn't do something sooner. How could I have been so blind to the signs, so numb to the things I should have noticed? I felt like I had failed not just myself but everyone around me. It was as if I had allowed this to happen, that somehow, in some way I had been complicit. The shame buried itself so deep that even the smallest thing would trigger it, reminding me of how dirty and broken I felt inside. But it wasn't just guilt and shame. It was the isolation that followed the feeling of being utterly alone, even when surrounded by people who claimed to care. How could I explain what I had just gone through? How could I tell anyone when I didn't fully understand it myself? I found myself withdrawing from everyone, avoiding eye contact, and pulling away from the ones who still tried to reach me. The walls I had once built to protect myself now felt like a prison, locking me in with my own pain. I began to avoid talking about it, pushing it further down into a place I didn't want to go, hoping that if I ignored it long enough, it would just disappear. But I knew it wouldn't. There were moments when I would catch myself reliving the event, haunted by flashes of memories I couldn't fully grasp, like pieces of a broken puzzle. It felt like my mind couldn't decide what was real and what wasn't. My thoughts would race, crashing into each other, and I'd be left confused, unsure of what had really happened. Was it my fault? Was I imagining things? I couldn't trust my own mind anymore. And then the anger came quiet at first, then louder and louder until it consumed me. I was angry at myself for being so weak, angry at the people who should have protected me but didn't, and angry at the world for being so unfair. It was a deep, searing anger that left me feeling exhausted, like I had been carrying this invisible weight for so long that I didn't know how much more I could take. There were moments, brief flashes of clarity, where I would catch a glimpse of something that could resemble peace, but it always felt just out of reach. The hardest part was not knowing how to heal. How do you begin to heal from something you don't fully understand? I wanted to move forward, to feel like I wasn't defined by what had happened, but every step felt like a battle. The emotional toll was unbearable, and some days it felt like I was drowning in the aftermath, struggling to keep my head above the water. I knew deep down that healing wasn't going to come easily. It wasn't going to be something I could fix in a day, a month, or even a year. But what I didn't know was how long it would take for me to stop feeling so broken, so lost. The only thing I could hold on to was the hope that, somehow, someday I'd find a way to understand it all and maybe, just maybe, learn how to live with it. It all came to a head one night, when the silence in my mind finally became unbearable. I was sitting alone, the darkness pressing in from every side, and for the first time in a long while, I wasn't running from the thoughts that had been haunting me. They had always been there, lurking in the background, but I had learned to keep them at bay. Until that night. It started with a memory small at first, a fleeting image, but it grew, expanded until it was all I could see. The weight of it hit me all at once, and I couldn't escape it. I had been avoiding the truth for so long, hiding from the reality of what had happened, but it didn't matter anymore. I couldn't outrun it. It was as if my mind had finally caught up with me, and it wasn't going to let me ignore it any longer. I stood up, shaking, my chest tightening as the flood of emotions crashed over me. Guilt, anger, fear, everything I had buried for so long came pouring out, each feeling more intense than the last. I screamed, my voice breaking, not caring who heard, not caring if anyone knew. I had spent years silencing myself, keeping everything locked inside, and now it felt like I was finally breaking free. For the first time, I wasn't trying to pretend. I wasn't trying to protect anyone or shield myself from the truth. I let myself feel everything, the rage, the pain, the confusion, and it was overwhelming. It felt like an explosion inside me, like a dam finally breaking after years of holding back the flood. I crumbled to the floor, gasping for breath, not knowing whether I was crying for the things that had happened, or for the fact that I had let myself believe I could forget them. But in that moment, there was something else, something unexpected. As the tears fell, a strange sense of release washed over me, as if the weight I had carried for so long was finally being lifted, piece by piece. For the first time, I allowed myself to truly acknowledge the trauma. I didn't try to justify it or hide from it. I didn't tell myself that it wasn't that bad, or that I was overreacting. I let myself feel it in its rawest form, and as much as it hurt, there was an undeniable catharsis in that truth. It was a painful release, but it was a release nonetheless. I wasn't healed, not by a long shot. The road ahead was still uncertain, still terrifying. But in that moment I knew something had changed. I had faced it. I had confronted the truth head-on. And while it was more painful than I had ever imagined, I understood now that facing it was the only way forward. The journey wasn't over, but for the first time, I felt like I was finally on the path to healing. Looking back now, it's hard to even recognize the person I was when all of this started. I was so lost, so consumed by the pain and confusion that it felt like I would never find my way out. But somehow, little by little, I started to rebuild myself. There were days when I felt like I was taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back, and moments when the weight of everything still felt unbearable. But over time, I began to understand that healing isn't a straight line. It's messy, it's complicated, and it doesn't happen overnight. I've learned that growth isn't about forgetting what happened or pretending it didn't affect me. It's about acknowledging the hurt and allowing myself to feel all of it without shame, without guilt. I've learned to accept that my past is a part of me, but it doesn't define who I am today. Every day, I take small steps toward reclaiming my strength, toward finding peace with the parts of myself that I once thought were too broken to fix. And though the scars are still there, they no longer feel like chains. They remind me that I survived, and that survival is something worth celebrating. There are still days when the trauma creeps back in, when the fear or the guilt threatens to swallow me whole. But now I know how to breathe through it. I know how to stand up and keep moving even when it feels impossible. I've come to realize that resilience isn't about being unbreakable, it's about finding the courage to rise again, every time you fall. If there's anything I've learned, it's that healing takes time. Takes patience, and it takes kindness, especially toward yourself. It's okay to not have all the answers. It's okay to not be okay sometimes. But no matter how dark it gets, no matter how long the road may seem, I want others to know that you don't have to go through it alone. There's strength in speaking your truth, in facing your past, and in taking those first difficult steps toward healing. The journey is hard, yes, but it is also one of the most powerful things you can do for yourself. You are not defined by your trauma. You are defined by your ability to rise, to rebuild, and to keep going. So, if you're struggling, know that there is hope. There is light at the end of the tunnel, even if it's hard to see right now. You are stronger than you think, and your story is far from over. Keep going. Keep healing. You are not alone. If you found something in this video that resonated with you, I want to hear from you. Healing is a journey that we don't have to walk alone, and by sharing our stories, we can create a community of strength and support. So, if you're ready, drop a comment below and share your own experience or your thoughts on the healing process. You're not alone in this. If you know someone who could benefit from hearing this message, please share this video with them. Together, we can help each other find the courage to heal and grow. And if you're not already subscribed, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We'll be diving into more stories of personal growth, overcoming challenges, and embracing empowerment. Let's keep this conversation going and continue to support one another. You are stronger than you know, and we're in this together. No matter where you are on your journey, I want you to know this. You are worthy of healing. You are worthy of love, peace, and the life you deserve. The pain you've experienced doesn't define you, it's a part of your story, yes, but it's not the end of it. The end is still yours to write, and it's filled with strength, resilience, and growth. Healing isn't linear, and it's not easy, but it is possible. With every step you take, no matter how small, you are reclaiming your power. And the most powerful thing you can do is to love yourself through it all, to give yourself the compassion and grace you deserve, especially on the hardest days. Remember that your story matters. Your truth matters. By sharing it, you not only heal yourself, but you also create a space where others can heal too. You are not alone in this. There is a whole community of people who understand, who support you, and who are rooting for your healing every step of the way. So, take a deep breath, remind yourself that you are enough, and know that each day is a new opportunity to embrace your worth. Your healing is yours, and it is powerful. You are powerful. Keep going because the world needs your light.